Funerals have been held in Gaza City for a group of Al Jazeera journalists killed in an Israeli strike near Al-Shifa Hospital. People gathered around the bodies of al-Sharif and Mohammed Qreiqeh, who died alongside three co-workers in Sunday's attack. Medics say a local reporter was also killed. The victims' colleagues at the Al Jazeera news network have been protesting the deaths. The company's long rejected Israeli accusations that al-Sharif was the leader of a Hamas cell posing as a journalist. He'd previously been part of a Reuters team that won a Pulitzer Prize last year for its coverage of the war in Gaza. Rights group Amnesty International is demanding an independent investigation. The Committee to Protect Journalists has described the attack as Israeli retribution for reporting on conditions in Gaza.
The smearing of journalists as terrorists without providing evidence is systematic. That's not something that we are able to verify because the Israeli authorities are not providing direct access to that so-called evidence. The only conclusion that you can come to is to behave like this is that Israel is behaving like this because it has something to hide and to conceal, that it is trying to conceal what is being done inside of Gaza.
Mourners in Gaza carrying the bodies of Al Jazeera journalists killed by an Israeli airstrike. One of them was Anas al-Sharif. Al-Sharif was one of Al Jazeera's main faces in Gaza and one of few surviving reporters in the Strip's north. He was also briefly part of a Reuters team which won a Pulitzer Prize last year for its coverage of the war. Israeli forces killed him and 4 others working for Al Jazeera in their tents outside the Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza City. The tents were on fire. Naturally, people thought at first that the other tents here would be targeted too. No one came. Then my cameraman and I came over. I found Mohammed Qreiqeh burning here. I climbed over him to put out the fire on Mohammed. I tried to pull him out, to get him out. I couldn't. Israel's military announced the killing, but it said Anas al-Sharif was the leader of a terrorist cell, pretending to be a journalist. The IDF posted what it says are documents proving al-Sharif was paid by Hamas and helped with rocket attacks against Israeli civilians and soldiers. Their evidence has not been independently verified. It also released images appearing to show al-Sharif posing with top Hamas leaders. For months before his death, Al Jazeera and al-Sharif himself rejected Israel's accusations that al-Sharif worked for Hamas.
It's another lie. Israel used to say something and claim it, but no one is checking it, no independent investigation, nothing. Dead people also cannot defend themselves. That's what Israel is doing in Gaza. And with the journalists, by the way. I mean, if you say something that Mr. Netanyahu or the Israeli cabinet doesn't like it, they might send someone after you.
As Gazans mourn, rights groups accuse Israel of labeling journalists terrorists as a pretext to target them.
Sara Qudah is also from the Committee to Protect Journalists. She's their Middle East and North Africa Regional Director. Good to have you here on DW. What should Israel do to satisfy you of their claim that Anas al-Sharif was a Hamas militant posing as a journalist?
First of all, they need to really provide solid proof that Anas al-Sharif was affiliated in any way in military or terrorism actions. An independent investigation has to be allowed, not by Israel, by an independent investigation bodies to really investigate on the killing of Anas al-Sharif and his colleagues and other journalists who has been targeted before Anas also. This is the only way that the truth can be revealed today.
They say they have provided that proof. They say Anas al-Sharif had served as the head of a Hamas terrorist cell and was responsible for rocket attacks against Israeli civilians and IDF forces. They say they have shown pictures of documents relating to Mr. Sharif and tying him to Hamas.
They say a lot of things, but what they are saying and showing is really a solid proof. Having pictures with leaders from any government, from any group, does not mean that you are a terrorist or you are engaged in any military actions. The sheets, the Excel sheets that they shared publicly, how can we verify that these are true? And what do they mean? What do they really mean? And so those are not solid proofs. Those are not things that we can rely on to really say that Anas Sharif or any other journalist is affiliated in any military actions. Again, if you are a journalist working in a media outlet that is affiliated to any group or any government, that doesn't mean that you are yourself a terrorist or engaged in any military actions. Anas Sharif, prior the war in Gaza, was working with a media outlet affiliated with Hamas. After the war, he was working and reporting to Al Jazeera. In those two cases, he is still a civilian, a journalist that should be protected. And killing him is a war crime.
And why then, if we presume that Anas Sharif was not a Hamas terrorist, why would Israel deliberately target him in this way?
It's very simple. They are trying to hide the truth. Anas Sharif was among one of the few prominent journalists who was able to report in Arabic and in English about what was happening in Gaza. He was sharing footages and videos of the reality inside Gaza. He reported on starvation. He reported on the killing of Gazan civilians when they go to receive humanitarian aid. These things are exposing what Israel is doing inside Gaza. And They need to silence the truth. They need to hide it. How do they hide it? By killing journalists.
And so just given that, just a brief word, if you wouldn't mind, on why journalists take such risks in these war zones. Is any story worth getting killed for?
If they are Palestinian journalists, they don't have a choice. They need to report on what is happening to their communities, to their country, to their families, and tell the reality and the truth, convey them to the world. If they are international journalists, when you are a journalist, you really sign up for this ethical job where you need to tell the truth, document and report, whether it was under risk or without any risk.
Thank you so much for joining us, Sara. Sara Qudah from the Committee to Protect Journalists.
Thank you.
Well, Anja Osterhaus is Executive Director of Reporters Without Borders Germany. Welcome to DW. Reporters Without Borders has described the killing of these Al-Sharif staff members as murder. Why?
Because the Israeli army admitted that it intentionally killed Anas al-Sharif. And this is unacceptable from our point of view because they claim for him to have been very closely linked with Hamas, but the evidence they provide, according to us, is not sufficient evidence to kill somebody, to kill a journalist. Killing a journalist is a war crime, and it cannot just be justified by one document which is shared. So we really condemn and we are appalled by this incident, and it's been the deadliest day for journalists in Gaza since the 7th of October 23, and there have been many deaths. Almost 200 people, journalists, have been killed, and this was really another extreme step in this war.
The Israeli Defense Force claim is that Anas al-Sharif had, and I'm quoting now, served as the head of a Hamas terrorist cell and was responsible for rocket attacks against Israeli civilians and IDF forces. If true, would that make him a legitimate target?
If it is true that he was linked to Hamas, we first need to see the evidence. And then it's still extremely questionable to kill somebody. So, of course, we do not support Hamas. We condemn the attacks and the killings done by Hamas. And we also criticize Hamas and other forces in the Gaza Strip because they themselves repress freedom in the Gaza Strip. But to kill a journalist is absolutely not acceptable, even if he was linked to Hamas. We do not see this as a justification to intentionally kill a journalist.
If this is murder of a non-Hamas-linked journalist, if this is just a journalist who was killed by Israel, why do you believe they chose to target Anas al-Sharif and his Al Jazeera colleagues in this way?
Because he's a leader, he was the face and the voice for the situation in Gaza. Hundreds of thousands of people followed him every day on his social media channels. He gave a voice to the people who are suffering this war. So unfortunately, we have to assume that the Israeli army is doing everything they can to avoid real faces and voices to be seen from what is happening in Gaza. And this is not only the killing of journalists is an aspect of that, but also the fact that they do not allow international journalists to enter the Gaza Strip. We have asked for that so many times, and it is still impossible for international journalists to enter the war zone. But the public is very interested and they have the right to see what is going on there.
So who should be held accountable for the killings of these 5 Al Jazeera staff members, and in what forum?
We need an independent investigation into this killing, and not only this killing. Over 200 journalists have been killed or died during this war since the 7th of October 23. We need an investigation into every single one of them, and we need to understand who is responsible for these deaths, and we then need to, the perpetrators need to be held accountable.
How intertwined is Hamas in Gazan society?
Of course, Hamas is the dominant force in Gaza. We all know that. They control many things. People are not in an easy and free situation in Gaza at all. They are also responsible for the horrible attack on the 7th of October 23 and many bombs that have been sent to Israel. This is all absolutely unacceptable. So there is also no really free and independent press in Gaza, because Hamas does not allow press to be completely independent and free either. So we have many problems in the Gaza Strip, but nothing of that justifies the intentional killing of a journalist.
Thank you for joining us and talking us through that. Anja Osterhaus from Reporters Without Borders, Germany.